and probably will be holding a bilateral discussion and a conference on the arbitration issues, and in particular what was outlined, it in fact emanated from Prashant, the issues of small and medium scale enterprises, which have different issues to the larger scale, because China and India, for example, are having a large trade concern and interaction which needs to be addressed at time. So you cannot really afford the expensive and the complicated and the complex processes of the regular arbitral processes. So the discussion will probably focus on the fact of how you can in fact have two classifications and to address the small and the medium scale at a different level as to the larger scale disputes. The other issues that we did discuss was the setting up of the BRICS legal forum, ladies and gentlemen, which is an extremely exciting prospect to be part of this entire historic process, where we put together a new institution. The new institution will be in a form which is probably acceptable to all. It is still in the process of discussion. What we did do in China while we were there, and we met in all these very serious, talking about China, the discussion has been always that China has a different system of operation, but believe me, ladies and gentlemen, while we are doing a very good job of running our country, we must learn from the others, and we must learn from China, not the process of the economic part of it only, but the determination and their concentration and their ability of diligence. Believe me, when we went in for the meetings, we met the directors of law societies, of the law schools, we met the law society chairmen and vice chairmen. They were completely targeted on what is required to be done. The new development bank is one of the biggest things that has come across in the historic world of BRICS, and to take it forward and to address at an overall sphere. So everybody is realizing, including the BRICS initiative, of the need to put together a whole between 5 countries, but at the same time, we all will retain our individual identities within that structure, which is the major difference from the traditional forms of global networking that has existed, whether it is at IMF or the World Bank. And with this in mind, we are going to have the Southeast Asian Forum meeting also. I think Prashant and I discussed it, so probably a little later down the line, the same priorities will be targeted. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to mention to you my final thoughts on the subject. BRICS is a historic initiative woven in the march towards a better tomorrow. Global order demands addressing the needs and concerns of a large cross-section of the world which was denied its rightful place. We need to work on this and propel it with all our heart and soul. This evolution is promising. Let us work towards it. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, Robert Frost said, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pinky. Two things. One, first, an apology to the speaker, because I introduced her as a television star and a colleague, but she is, of course, a leader at the bar, and now our not just a senior advocate, but our additional Solicitor General as well. Thank you. May I now invite Mr. Lodhi to address the. Well, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I understand Prashant Kumar will now give you the way the formation of BRICS Lawyers Forum is proceeding. Thank you.
Friends, to all my colleagues from the Bar Association of India, who have come from the length and breadth of this country, it is a pleasure for me to report on the progress we have made towards formation of the BRICS Legal Forum. Ms. Parikh, Pinky Anand have already presented before you various nuances because of which this initiative has certain importance and gravitas in terms of not only how the legal professionals operate within these 5 countries, but also what contribution they can make in developing regulatory, trade and economic systems which will not only benefit the populations of these countries, but may help in creating a different and more equitable world economic and trade order. Friends, this process of bringing together different legal regimes, having different legal systems at their basis, and even having very radically different ways in which these countries are governed, where even the same terms which are used mean a lot differently in these countries. The term like democracy, the term like rule of law, and where so far the priorities have also been very, very divergent. To bring all these countries together on a common platform and with a common understanding is a challenge by itself. The whole process began in the month of May 2012, when on our invitation, a very high-powered delegation of China Law Society visited India, and the Bar Association of India hosted them. And it is at the residence of Mr. K K Venugopal, after some preliminary discussions, we mooted the idea of establishing BRICS Legal Forum, which will be just the core lobe to involve other emerging economies and start off a discourse which is relatively new, whose priorities are different from the usual legal organizations. I am very happy to say that China Law Society and Bar Association of India joined forces. We divided our tasks. I liaisoned with Brazil, whereas China liaisoned with Russia and South Africa. And again, we will be taking up it further in a combined meeting in Brasilia in December, where the stakeholders from all the 5 countries will be meeting together. To achieve it in such a short time has been a real blessing, and it is also an evidence that peoples and legal professionals in all the 5 jurisdictions have been equally keen and willing to take up such an endeavor. We have received very enthusiastic response and inputs from all the 5 members so far. At the same time, we have had our own experience of having transnational organizations, right, SARC law and all, which were cast in a structure which somehow restricted the initiative to a few individuals who became office bearers of such organizations. And we had the benefit of experience of Mr. K K Venugopal, who himself led the SARC law. So what we have done, we have given up the usual organizational structure of having a president, vice president, treasurer, so on and so forth, in favor of a more democratic structure which has a stamp of equality of participation and spreading out the initiative so that collective energies are put to use. So the initiative is more rooted in what we have termed as initiating organizations, which is the Bar Association of India, China Law Society, Brazil Bar Association, Russian Federation of Lawyers, and South African Law Society and South African ADR Association. Each year, since the legal forum has to feed into the overall BRICS structuring, and facilitate the broad goals and objectives of BRICS itself, it is to precede the holding of the main heads of the states meeting. And for that purpose, the structure we have devised is that year, whichever among the five jurisdictions is hosting the BRICS forum, that association will be hosting the BRICS legal forum. And the president of that association will be the president of the forum for that year. So that there is no notion of dominance by anybody. And it is the infrastructure and chain of command of that association itself which takes all the organizational responsibilities for the forum. At the same time, we have structured a steering committee with 5 members each from 5 jurisdictions to advise the inputs for the forum and for the purpose of agenda setting. We have also devised mechanisms where we have more collaboration of the universities and academics, and also once the forum is over, to dilate on key issues, formation of working groups, and another sub-segment which is called the BRICS think tank, where not only from the associations and all, but the legal luminaries and other persons who have had the experience of regulation and structuring policy regimes can be invited to participate. That's what the Chief Justice spoke about today, multidisciplinary teams. So to have a BRICS legal think tank. I will not take much time. I will just read the objectives which are mostly settled and are to be adopted in Brazil. We, the members of the legal communities represented by the predominant organizations of lawyers, law associations, law societies of the countries of the BRICS nations, having gathered here in Brasilia, that is when we are going to meet in Brazil, in December 2014, believing in the objectives of the BRICS nations as serving the common interests of emerging market economies in developing countries, sharing the common aspirations of our people in the BRICS nations to live in peace, freedom, social justice, and economic prosperity, underlining our support for a multipolar, equitable, and democratic world order based on international law, equality, mutual respect, cooperation, coordinated action, and collective decision-making of all states. Conscious that in order to realize the said objective, it is necessary to develop people-to-people cooperation. Aware of the fact that law and the legal community have a role to play in developing a legal framework and normative structure for a new world economic order that caters to the needs of more than half the population of the world, do hereby constitute and form ourselves into an association known as BRICS Legal Forum. The strategy, operating strategy of the forum, where I will like to involve a number of professionals here who are willing to devote to that objective. So the strategy will be, the forum will pursue its mission through the adoption and implementation of appropriate strategies and will include convening conferences, seminars, and lectures on a regular basis to discuss the important emerging legal issues in the area of policy, governance, economic regulations, sustainable development, environment, and socio-cultural aspects, including criminal law reform, economic crimes, and corruption. Cooperate with each other organizations within this region to promote and strengthen the exchange and cooperation among the legal organizations, education and research institutions, business enterprises, governments, and non-government groups in matters of trade, investment, etc. Pursue both independent and collaborative research activities, especially in the area of legal research, financial cooperation, alternate dispute resolution, legal services, and legal professional training, which will contribute to the overall goals of the forum. Establish a legal think tank to act as a brains trust to help power the BRICS countries to be at the forefront of world trade and economic order, to bring equal opportunities and benefits to half the population of the globe, which the BRICS countries together account for. So with these objectives and with structure of an organization which is democratic and which wants to restore a balance in the world economic order, we are moving forward. We need all your energies, your good wishes, your cooperation and contributions in future. This was just an initial exposition for the purpose of making the legal community aware in the direction we are moving in. So I will welcome all of you to make meaningful contribution in the future in this enterprise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prashant Kumarji. There's one, we still have about 5 or 6 minutes left, and I would like to invite any questions, very brief questions, perhaps up to 3 questions from the floor on this new issue of BRICS, because that's not something that's generally known. So if there is anyone, the questions will obviously be answered by either Mr. Prashant Kumar or Ms. Pinky Anand. So please, anyone who wishes to ask one? Oh, I'm very surprised. Usually no one more. Oh yes, there's one here. All right. Yes, Mr. Shekhar. Could you stand up and so that we can hear you? Yeah.
Prashant and Pinky, since you have been recently to Fiji, I just wanted to know, no doubt we have set up a forum for BRIC lawyers. I just wanted to understand what is going to be the understanding in regard to the law regime under which we are going to operate, because you know that there is always going to be a conflict between international law and municipal law. There is going to be a lot of disputes because there is a W2 regime, there are so many other things which are there in place. We have also provide, as very rightly said, an arbitration forum, platform for people. But ultimately, what is going to be the law on which we are going to come out with some kind of a new system or a new legal system on which we are going to operate? Otherwise, everything we have to do it only through an arbitration, because there are other situations. How are we going to provide any going to be a common law for all these 5 countries?
We don't believe that it is the homogeneity and commonality only that can serve the purpose of bringing various people and systems together. It is a better understanding and the intent to work together which is material here. And even otherwise, all 5 countries are operating in the regimes which are already set in terms of international trade and economic order. It is only that now it is our collective enterprise and bargaining power that will help mediate setting up the new rules of the games. To create a homogeneity will be to kill the innovation, kill the originality, and it is a task which we have not set up for ourselves. As far as the dispute resolution is concerned, what we are doing is we are trying to fill up spaces which have been left blank. And I personally also have seen that if you have an international trading dispute even to the extent of say 20 lakhs, 50 lakhs, the current costs are a huge disincentive to even contemplate that kind of enterprise. So we will try to use technology. We will try to use the multilateral forums within BRICS which can address this gap, because unlike big countries, industrialized countries, 80% of our economic production lies in the hands of small and medium enterprises. And that is why it is an area of focus and concern for us. Moreover, as Pinky said, that we met the International Economic and Arbitration Forum in China. And before that, Mr. Parikh had cast some aspersions that, their legal system is quite closed and, they can't act against government and other things and all. So here, I will give you a worst example. Here we are talking about a dispute resolution body. Let me talk about a casino. Everybody goes to win in a casino. Very few come out as winners. But I had advised certain casino operators in Goa and tried to learn their mechanics. I must tell you that for a casino to keep on operating, there must be a continuous sound of money dropping and bingo. If that is not there, nobody will come and put their money in a casino. And just a 4% surplus for the casino is enough for them to be in the business and make money.